Alright, it's time to start cutting up this bumper cover. I set it up there and just made some marks for the initial cut. So I'm going to grab my body saw and go to it. Fits. Alright, for those of you out there who are worried about the aesthetics of this bumper, after we went to war with the body saw, chopping it up, all that kind of stuff, before you fire off an email telling me how stupid I am and how much you hate me and all that stuff for destroying this bumper cover, take a minute and just enhance your comm, John Spartan. It's going to be fine. So there's a couple other modifications I'm going to have to make to the bumper cover. I'm going to have to maybe pop some holes or something in the front, or I kind of want to do like a swept air inlet. I got to do something up here to get air to the intercooler. So I'm going to have to make some more mods to this. When I do that stuff, I'll deal with the aesthetics of the bumper cover. I have enough body shop experience where we'll be able to clean all this up and it'll look fine. So I know that upsets some people when you see stuff get chopped up like that, so just bear with me, be patient, I appreciate it. So in order for me to build the hot side, I have to know exactly where the turbos are going to go. That led to mocking the turbos up in several locations, and there's several things, there's 5 or 6 things that I'm looking for when it comes to finding a suitable place to put the turbo. I got to be able to get exhaust in, I have to be able to get exhaust out. This is going to be a street car, so I wanted to run a real air filter as opposed to just a screen or maybe no filter at all. So I had to have enough room for an air filter. And then I wanted the cold side plumbing to be relatively easy to route. So from the turbo, the turbine side to the intercooler, I wanted that to be pretty straightforward. And I also wanted the turbos to be high enough to where the oil would gravity drain back to the pan. So those are kind of the things I was looking for as I mocked the turbos up in various spots. Up here in the front, kind of down low, as I was running through my checklist of things that I was looking for, this spot up here, this met all the criteria. Exhaust in, exhaust out. Not only am I able to do exhaust out, but I'm able to run the exhaust out the back of the car, just like a factory setup. So we're going to have rear exit exhaust. It's not going to come out the fenders, anything like that. There's enough room for me to run a 3-inch air filter and still get the front bumper cover on the car. The cold side plumbing is incredibly straightforward, and they are just high enough to where I should have enough slope to do a gravity drain for the oil and turbo. So once I had committed to this being the location for the turbos conceptually, the next step was to mock the turbos up and get them rigidly mounted so that I had a fixed point to shoot for with my hot side, an A and a B. I had to get that B point solidified. So what I did, I took this piece of fence post, right, and just a piece of this fence post, some threaded rod, and I use that to hold the turbo in place. This is great because I can swing it left and right on the bolt. I can move it up and down with the threaded rod. There's a bunch of holes in this fence pipe, so I can move it in and out. And then the threaded rod is not so rigid, not so strong that I can't bend it. So I'm able to make some small tweaks just by bending the rod. So that worked out really well. That enabled me to relatively rigidly position the turbo. Once I had that done, I gave everything another once over with my eyes, just made sure I was exhaust in, exhaust out, cold side, all that checklist. Everything looked good, so I decided to move forward with it. At that point, I could start the hot side construction. So let's get going on that. We'll jump into the hot side. All right, so after I got A and B established for the hot side, the first problem that I ran into is the inlet flange on the turbocharger, which is location B, is square, and your exhaust tubing is going to be round. So you have a, let's see, be a round peg square hole situation. So this little adapter is how I solved that. It wasn't a very complicated piece, pretty simple. So, but I've got some footage of how I built this, how I put it together. So I'll run that in this video. And that'll probably be it for this one. We'll kind of do the rest of the hot side in the next one. This is the inlet flange. This bolts onto the turbo. And this is, they call this a V-band flange. It's kind of taped up, sorry, can't see it clearly. But they call that a V-band flange. This welds onto the exhaust pipe, and there's a special clamp that will hold this together on the exhaust. So you got round, square. So we're gonna go round peg to square hole right now. I'm gonna set this on here and I'm gonna MIG weld them together. That's why I've got this tape on here. I'm trying to protect this flange from the spatter from the MIG welder. A better plan would be to TIG weld this. However, this is a used flange. It's been cut off and kind of chewed up. So it doesn't fit this very well. It's not a real tight fit. So I'm not an experienced enough or a good enough TIG welder to be able to TIG that and deal with those gaps. So I'm gonna go ahead and MIG them together. You see we got a pretty decent looking weld around there. And I took a grinder in here, just this round burr right there, and just smoothed everything out so it's a pretty smooth transition in there. I run the vacuum clamped in right there while I'm using the grinder. It really helps control the shavings. So that's how I conquered the round peg square hole issue. So if you guys have a better solution or other ideas, by all means let me know.